A brief reminder to come help if you're able, to help prepare for the rummage sale this Friday and Saturday. If you're able to come tomorrow or Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, that'd be great. Rummage sale, again, remember, starts at 7 o'clock on Friday and Saturday this week. Now, on to today's devotions. They are again from John, this time chapter 19, but just verses 28 through 30, and this is how they read. After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said, to fulfill the scriptures, I thirst. A jar full of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of the sour wine on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. And again, we all know this story, as well we should. It is the story of stories, because it's the story that gives us life. We have life through the death of Jesus Christ. When we're told that Jesus said it is finished after drinking the sour wine to fulfill Scripture, that Scripture is Psalm 69, verse 21, which reads, They gave me poison for food, and for my thirst they gave me sour wine to drink. It never fails to amaze me how God planned the story of salvation, not just in broad strokes, but in minute details as well. It isn't in Scripture that he was to drink, or even to drink wine, that it was to be sour wine. By the time of Jesus' crucifixion, about 1,000 years after the psalm was written, sour wine had become the common drink of the Roman soldier. In our text today, it says, a jar full of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of the sour wine on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. It was indicating that it was customary for that jar to be there. Now, the significance for us in that is that Jesus' crucifixion, in some ways, was just another ordinary event in the lives of those soldiers who put him to death. This was just another day at the office for them up to this point. It seems they were used to having that jar there, and perhaps they thought they were being kind in sharing their sharp, sour drink with the dying. Of course, then again, it could have been a malicious thing in helping to prolong the suffering of those on one of the crosses in their place of business. We just don't know. What we do know is that it's a comfort knowing that every detail of Jesus' work of salvation was planned by God from before the world began, even down to the wine that Jesus would be given as he died for the guilt of sin. Yes, for the soldiers and many others, this was just another dying common criminal getting the drink of the common man. And that again astonishes us. God uses the common for his holy purpose. And still, today, with us, he uses common water, wine, bread, and written word to touch us with his uncommon holiness and grace. The details of God's grace to us, such as that jar of sour wine standing near the cross of Christ, can fill us again with awe and wonder at how God chooses to make himself known to us. And that draws us to be ever grateful for his great mercy. When next we come to Holy Communion, in the taste of the wine, if you detect a note of sharpness or sourness, let that remind you of how God planned every detail of your salvation that is given to you in his great sacrifice of love. God's peace is with you. Goodbye.